do you get somebody, because I always say some people get it, some people don't, okay? Right. But when it comes to a relationship, how do you explain to somebody how important it is to build a relationship and kind of put the dollars and cents aside, because that will just come with building a relationship?
The natural extension of the relationship.
Sure, absolutely.
Right. You know, I think it's one of the reasons why people need to get themselves more immersed in reading positive things, because there's a natural traction out there and towards positive. And what people think a lot of times is the natural traction is towards what can I do from a money standpoint, from a materialistic standpoint. And the truth is they're interested in that. I mean,
sure.
At the end of the rainbow, that needs to be there. But the person they're going to trust to get there is going to be somebody they have a relationship with, and what they're looking for. And I think everybody understands it's very natural to understand. Can I trust you? Do I believe that you believe, that you're a person that comes from a good place? And so, I think what people are looking for a relationship. I was at a conference this last week and I talked about it. What people are looking for, whether it's love or money or anything, they're looking to know that you know kind of who you are and where
sure.
you're going, how you're going to get there, and if they sense that, then they feel comfortable in the relationship. They'll be more willing to open up. So I guess the long answer to the short question is, a relationship happens when the other person feels comfortable enough to open themselves up to you in a way they may not open up to other people.
The thing for me is, you and I are somewhere in the same age. I'm 56. Mm-hmm. When I grew up, if you wanted to get somewhere, you first had to understand the people that you're working with. It wasn't about, well, how much am I going to make? How many hours am I going to work? And then it just seemed like just before the economy crashed, people had forgot about it. It had really just kind of gone away. People were more, people were more money driven instead of relationships and knowing how to bring people in as a family. Mm-hmm. By the economy crashing, I almost think that we kind of went back, we turned back the clock in a way to old school, to where the relationship came back because it was the only way to rebuild.
Right. It's funny, just take that a step further. Remember 9/11.
Absolutely.
You just wanted to be with the person you loved the most that night.
Absolutely.
There was nothing else. You didn't care about money. Mm-hmm. You didn't care about where you're at. You cared about one thing. If I was 2,000 miles away, even with the airplanes down, how am I going to get back to the person I love the most? And that shows you when things go wrong, you always will go back to the relationship. And I've never forgot that, because I remember sitting out there thinking of all the millions of people trying to get back to the one thing that was important. They were out there on a business meeting. They may have been gone for days, maybe even neglected their people they loved for the last week or month or year. But at that moment, there's one place I wanted to be, was back to a relationship.
I found it ironic that everyone in your circle constantly said failure creates success. Mm-hmm. I've always had a saying, if you don't make a mistake, you're not trying.
Right.
And what happens the first thing you go into a gym? No pain, no gain.
Right.
Really, it really equates to the same thing.
Right. It's a hard thing for people to get their arms around. We run from failure, and there's a fear. It's almost, well, you think about it, when you're growing up, there's a natural fear to not touch something hot, something that could hurt you. There's a natural fear, which is a fear that keeps you away from certain things that could hurt you. That's failure, okay? But then we take it to our emotional lives. And I see so many people trapped because their fear of failure stops them from even trying. And I don't know, I wrote this down once, and I'll try and be quick here, but it was something that was just changed me. Because I'm no different than anybody else. I fear resistance. I fear people turning me down. I fear people saying no. We all have that because it flexing on us.
Sure.
And one day I was reading an article about funerals. This is crazy. And it was talking about how funerals, the average funeral, there's about 10 people who will be crying at your funeral. It goes on to say at their burial, half the people, if it's raining, will leave. And I remember sitting there thinking, I go through my entire life trying to be who I am, trying to do all these things. And at the end of my life, all these people that quote unquote love me will be there, and there'll be about 10 of them crying. And if it's raining that day, half of them aren't going to even go. What am I worried about these people, having an opinion about me on failure? Right. And I let go. I just let go of fear of people's opinion, and it just marched right into it. It was a change in the philosophy.
Jeff, you just said something that I think so many of us, including myself, and I've seen people close to me, is that we do spend too much time worrying about what everybody else thinks, instead of worrying about taking care of ourselves, taking care of our loved one, just like you do to your wife Renee and your daughter Amber, and the people within your circle and your family. We do spend too much time worrying about what somebody else thinks. And when the chips are down, where are those people really going to be? And I've never heard it put that way. But I'd rather know that now than after I'm dead and I can't utilize it.
It's the big day. I mean,
absolutely.
This is probably the second most important day. You're born, and the day you move on to wherever you're going. And to think that how many people it doesn't really matter to. And so you start, when that happens, back to the 9/11. Where'd you want to be? That's the people that matter. Beyond that, and they're going to be there, good or bad or indifferent with you, no matter. And so for me, I have found, I've been around so many neat people, so many people have touched so many people's lives. And every one of them, a common thread to every one of them, they were doing what other people were not willing to do. They were engaged in things that other people were not willing to do, and doing things that most people would be stopped. And it wasn't that they couldn't do it, it's that they were afraid of the rejection that came. And so something that they were perceiving, not something that was real, was holding them back. Now that's kind of crazy because it was here versus in their ability. And so, but you always see all these people, they got over that hurdle, because you don't really think about it. If you really think about it, if you could somehow have this magical recording machine following you, and it was tracking everything you go through, and that you worry about it every day, and you probably worry about hundreds and hundreds of things.
Sure.
Probably 95% of those things never even happen. So we spend all this energy worrying about stuff that never is going to happen, and it eats up so much of our energy, which if that same energy could be focused on things that are happening. Okay, so we're worrying about things that will never happen, eating up energy from things that are happening.
And most of the time, they're things that we can't control anyways, right?
Right. A lot of these things you don't have control of. What you have control over is how you feel about it. You can't. A lot of times you can't control what's happening, but you can control how you respond to that. You know, these words, when you say them, they go, yeah, that's obvious.
Sure.
But it's your ability to act upon them. You know, and it's always in that. It's when something's happening from you. It's in that moment of decision. It's right there. And you got a decision to let it affect you, not let it affect you. It's a nanosecond. Okay. And if you have the right philosophies that just say, hey, that doesn't matter, and you just move forward another direction, it goes away. If you have a philosophy where you fear and you buy into it, you know. And, you know, that's why they say the negative subconscious is your biggest enemy. The thing that heard no 40,000 times before I went to first grade, and the word yes 5,000 times. It's been built into your negative subconscious. So when somebody says something negative, this bigger part of your brain, the negative subconscious, which is so much bigger than the positive subconscious, immediately says, I told you so. And you immediately feed it, and it gets bigger. And what you got to do is start feeding the positive side of your brain. You know, that's how I raised my daughter. I couldn't change the no's. Don't touch the fire, don't cross the street, don't get in front of the car. But I could change the yeses. And she went to first grade, she had the 40,000 no's, because I had to do that as a parent. But she also went with like a couple 100,000 yeses. So she had a more positive subconscious than a negative subconscious. So when the negatives hit her, she had a different filtering system than the average child.